Hey there, welcome to my channel BNB Glow. The relationship between Brooke Logan and Nick Marone, who die-hard fans call Bricky, is one of the most captivating. Their once fervent and sincere bond was eventually ruined by a number of issues, chief among them being Brooke's long-standing relationship with Ridge Forrester. Nonetheless, Brooke's daughter Hope Logan is in a great position to rekindle that old passion and push for their reunion. Hope has developed into a wise, kind lady who appreciates emotional honesty, personal development and second chances. Nick provided Brooke with a calming presence and sincere kindness, which Hope recalls clearly in contrast to Ridge, who frequently abandons Brooke in a tornado of uncertainty and emotional instability. Hope has formed a strong sense of what love should feel like as a character who has personally experienced the upheaval of romantic entanglements. Steady, empowering and mutually supportive. In this situation, Hope might end up becoming Bricky's most outspoken and calculated ally, driven not only by sentimentality but also by a deep-seated conviction that Nick is a much healthier and more durable match for her mother than Ridge ever was. In addition to her emotional intelligence, Hope's support for a Brooke-Nick reunion would come from her personal experience of seeing her mother endure constant pain as a result of Ridge's hesitation. An agonizing cycle of passionate highs and heartbreaking betrayals characterizes Brooke and Ridge's past together. This is frequently brought on by Ridge's unwillingness to totally choose Brooke over other women, most notably Taylor Hayes. Ridge's frequent vacillations between Brooke and Taylor caused Brooke to feel insecure all the time, which eventually affected how she interacted with her kids. Over the years, Hope in particular has had to bear the emotional weight of witnessing her mother's devaluation and gaslighting. Nick Marone, on the other hand, was an exception to that pattern. He showed Brooke the affection and deference that Ridge so frequently lacked during their time together. For Hope, who was maturing at the time, Nick was a steady, solid person, someone who gave Brooke the love, validation and integrity she so much needed. Even though their relationship ended, Hope probably carried the memories of that warmth and stability with her, especially in contrast to the tumultuous and frequently destructive dynamic between Brooke and Ridge. Therefore, Hope's support for a Bricky reunion would stem from more than simply passion. It would also come from a profound understanding of what offers her mother peace. Additionally, in today's BNB environment, Hope's position as Bricky's strongest ally would make narrative sense. Amidst the craziness of the Forresters, Logans and Spencers, Hope frequently serves as a moral compass and has developed into a major character in her own right. She has assumed leadership positions at Forrester Creations and in her own family in recent stories. Additionally, she is now more aggressive and less likely to mindlessly follow Ridge's or Steffi's plans. This development has led to a greater readiness to question the existing quo, particularly if doing so will safeguard the emotional health of others she cares about. Encouraging Brooke to explore a future with Nick could be Hope's method of steering her mother away from poisonous patterns and toward emotional contentment. Hope is also in a unique position to appreciate the importance of selecting someone who makes you feel comfortable rather than someone who continuously pushes your boundaries, because she has gone through her fair share of heartbreak, especially in her relationships with Liam and Thomas. Despite his flaws, Nick was a man who made Brooke feel more vulnerable and strong. Hope could realize that Bricky was a possible destination all along rather than merely a diversion from Brooke plus Ridge, if she were to think back on that period of time. Hope's changing connection with her mother may also have influenced her desire to help Bricky. Hope and Brooke have evolved over the years from the traditional mother-daughter duo to more of a confidant and best friend relationship. Honesty, empathy, and a common understanding of what it means to be a woman under continual scrutiny, in both career and love, are the foundations of their relationship. Hope might be the first to push Brooke to pursue it if she confided in her about feeling let down by Ridge once more, or if she happened to run across Nick by chance and saw that old spark rekindling. Hope would be more likely to question why not go back to something that seemed right in the past, especially if it still has potential, than others who might write Bricky off as a thing of the past. Hope's viewpoint would be particularly encouraging and based on her wish for her mother's happiness rather than control, in contrast to characters like Steffi or Taylor, who frequently see Brooke's decisions through the prism of rivalry and animosity. This would provide Brooke with the mental security she needs to re-evaluate her past relationship with Nick without worrying about criticism or mockery. At the same time, Hope might be useful in planning a reunion. She might be able to get Nick back into the workforce by using her connections at Forrester Creations. Nick's return to Los Angeles might be justified if a new company endeavor calls for his strategic thinking or marine experience. A well-timed invitation from Hope might naturally reintegrate him into Brooke's life, fostering a personal reunion with professional cooperation. Realizing that bringing in more family members would ease any discomfort or residual tensions, Hope might even include RJ or Bridget. It's easy to envision a touching scene in which Hope politely invites Brooke to join Nick for lunch so they can catch up, and then the emotional undertones start to surface. Hope would be an active facilitator in this way, subtly encouraging two individuals she believes in to return to one another rather than only acting as a passive cheerleader. In addition, Hope may utilize that opportunity to set a clear boundary and remind Ridge and her mother that love should never seem like an ultimatum if Ridge reacted in a jealous or possessive manner, as he frequently does. Furthermore, Hope can have a fascinating character development as a result of her assistance to Bricky. Hope has been embroiled in romantic relationships for a large portion of her plot, frequently sacrificing her happiness for the benefit of others, whether it's repeatedly forgiving Liam or restraining her affections for Thomas because of his previous behavior. Hope may be able to break out from that cycle and set an example for a new kind of love by supporting Brooke's second chance with Nick. This new approach would value second chances, but only if they are accompanied by mutual commitment, growth, and respect. Hope would be standing up for Bricky not only for her mother's happiness but also for a more comprehensive and sophisticated view of love, one that seeks harmony, collaboration, and clarity rather than exalting emotional turmoil as passion. In a program that frequently feeds on emotional extremes, she might emerge as the voice of reason, providing Brooke with a fresh direction that doesn't keep returning to Ridge. Lastly, from the standpoint of storytelling, reintroducing Nick and having Hope support him would give BNB's existing storylines new life. While new viewers might be exposed to an engaging what-if love story that nonetheless has emotional resonance, longtime fans would value the homage to Bricky's past. Hope's participation would lend the reunion emotional legitimacy, particularly since she doesn't like to romanticize the past. The audience is more likely to be receptive to the idea if she thinks Nick is the ideal man for her mother. Furthermore, a Bricky reunion led by the next generation would mark the start of a new chapter based on lessons learned rather than just a return to a previous love in a show where families, legacies, and redemption arcs are continuously entwined. Hope's steadfast support would provide the plot emotional depth and demonstrate how love can be rediscovery and reimagining, particularly when directed by people who have a deep understanding of us. In that way, Bricky's staunchest ally, Hope Logan, might hold the secret to a love tale that hasn't ended yet but is just awaiting a new chapter. Ridge Forrester is overcome with jealousy. Now that Ridge Forrester has accepted Taylor Hayes' proposal and the two are formally engaged, all eyes are on him on the bold and the beautiful. Ridge Forrester wearing a ring and going to the altar to say, "I do," are two completely different things though. Before Ridge and Taylor's big wedding day, will his jealousy get the better of him? Read on to find out. Here are some spoilers for what will happen next on Bold and Beautiful. Brooke is not yet over Ridge. Taylor Hayes believes she has won her fight with Brooke Logan, Catherine Kelly Lang, but she is mistaken. She is unaware, however, that she has yet to secure her ex-husband. The return of Nick Marone, Jack Wagner, can seriously disrupt Taylor's wedding preparations. Spoilers for Bold and Beautiful indicate that Taylor will be excited to decide on a wedding date and organize the lavish ceremony. She will begin to see that her husband is somewhat distracted and more anxious about his half-brother having an affair with his ex-wife than he is about choosing a location and creating a wedding gown. For what length of time will Taylor continue to believe that she is engaged to Ridge? Everyone else in the family will be able to tell that Ridge Forrester is being slow and envious of Brooke and the captain. According to BNB previews, Ridge is only going to become cold-hearted as Brooke pushes her new romance in his face. Does Taylor call off her wedding? Does Taylor really want to marry someone who is still in love with another woman, even if she is successful in getting Ridge to say, "I do" this summer? Is Ridge on his way to the Heartbreak Hotel, or will he be able to conceal his jealousy from Taylor? Before "I do," Ridge Forrester dumps Taylor after getting cold feet. According to teasers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Taylor Hayes is ecstatic about becoming engaged and is prepared to begin organizing her wedding with Ridge Forrester. However, before she reserves the location, she might want to ask the groom if he is reconsidering. Here's what Bold and Beautiful has planned for next week. In addition to bringing her own engagement ring for the special occasion, Taylor Hayes enticed Ridge Forrester to a romantic meal where she proposed. Brooke is moving on. Viewers of The Bold and the Beautiful witnessed the awkward moments when Ridge said yes and consented to marry Taylor again. But was there truly nothing else he could do? If his ex-wife had worked so hard on a proposal and he had rejected it, she would have been devastated. After seeing the entire engagement, Nick Marone, Jack Wagner, hurried to inform Brooke Logan, Catherine Kelly Lang, that Ridge was getting married. B&B spoilers indicate that Brooke will weep on the captain's shoulder and that the ex-couple will resume their social interactions. Ridge is resentful that Brooke is spending time with his opponent and half-brother, even though he has planned his wedding to Taylor Hayes. Given their lengthy and tense past, Nick is the last person on earth that Ridge wants to see with Brooke Logan. Taylor disregards the warning signs. Taylor will quickly discover that her fiancé is sulking and sleeping less because of another woman. Instead of seeing that as a warning sign, Taylor will probably start rushing to get Ridge to the altar as soon as possible before he changes his mind and cancels the wedding. Do you believe Ridge will truly carry out the I do's? Or will Taylor Hayes be dealing with a runaway groom? To what extent will Brooke go in order to prevent Ridge's wedding? According to teasers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Brooke Logan will be devastated to find out that Ridge Forrester is engaged to Rebecca Budig's character, Taylor Hayes. But he hasn't said I do yet. Is Brooke still able to call off the wedding and win her man back? Read on to find out. Below are spoilers for what will happen on B&B next week. At the restaurant, Nick Marone, Jack Wagner, heard Ridge Forrester's response to Taylor's extremely awkward proposal. According to B&B teasers, the captain rushed to spill the tea with Brooke Logan because he was so excited. However, Nick Marone wasn't prepared for her response. A bridge drama involves Nick Marone. Brooke believes she still has time to win Ridge back before they are married, instead of embracing the truth that he is getting married to Taylor. This explains why the Logan women on Bold and the Beautiful struggle to make friends. 4 months. Rumors and spoilers have suggested that Nick Marone will hook up with his ex-wife Brooke Logan when he returns to Los Angeles. What if their relationship isn't real though? Before Ridge makes the grave error of marrying his other ex-wife, Brooke is trying desperately to get him to come back. Hooking up with his half-brother is the perfect method to attract Ridge's attention and arouse his jealousy. Taylor may decide to call off the wedding since she is sick of Ridge's obsession with his ex, even if he decides not to call it quits because he still loves Brooke. Brooke's creativity. For decades, Brooke and Taylor have been at odds over Ridge, but since they are both grandmothers now, they are unable to use pregnancy tests to gain the Forrester heir. They must now exercise a little more imagination. In your opinion, how far will Brooke Logan go to persuade Ridge to call off the wedding? Will she make Ridge envious by hooking up with Nick? Or might she perform worse? After months of hoping that Ridge would eventually come back to her, Brooke Logan is finally forced to face the fact that he is truly moving on. The ensuing anguish sends her spiraling toward the bottle, an all-too-familiar coping mechanism she's fallen back on during her darkest moments. And now, as Ridge and Taylor plan their wedding, Brooke is on the verge of relapsing. On The Bold and the Beautiful, Brooke Logan has experienced an emotional roller coaster full of romantic highs and heartbreaking lows. And the most recent wave of heartbreak, Ridge Forrester's decision to accept Taylor Hayes' unexpected marriage proposal, threatens to push her over the edge. Nick Marone, the one man who has perhaps loved Brooke more than anybody else, enters this ideal emotional storm. After arriving in Los Angeles at a time when Brooke is at her most vulnerable, Nick discovers that she is about to give in to the influence of alcohol. Driven by his protective instincts and lingering love for her, he steps in and not only physically stops her from pouring a drink, but also emotionally reminds her of her value and strength. Nick turns into her bulwark against hopelessness at that crucial juncture, telling her that she doesn't have to deal with this betrayal alone and encouraging her to recall all the times she managed to bring herself out of the dark. He faces her suffering head-on, recognizing the extent of her heartache over Ridge, and gently urging her to see that her future need not be shaped by someone who consistently fails to commit. Nick doesn't provide platitudes or easy solutions as he holds her hand and hears her raw suffering, her voice trembling as she resurfaces her concerns of being abandoned once more. Rather, he reminisces about their own past, including their passionate moments together, their close bond, and the intense emotional closeness that once lifted her spirits when she had nowhere else to turn. Their common past serves as an anchor. As Brooke sobs and shakes, Nick tells her about the night they ran away to the shady Marlin following their wedding and how he said, "I'm never going to let you go," a pledge she fervently hopes to believe once more. WHatToWatch.com. Nick reminds her in that unvarnished, priceless moment that love need not always be utterly destroying. It can also be healing, uplifting, and secure. Nick highlights that asking for assistance is not a sign of weakness and that resilience is more than simply surviving. It's also about knowing when to rely on someone you can trust. He does this while wiping the tears from her cheeks and replacing the nearly lethal glass in her hand with a glass of water. Still in shock, Brooke is able to look into Nick's kind eyes and see how much she has been hurting, not only because of Ridge's betrayal, but also because she has been caught in a vicious cycle of holding on to what is familiar rather than what is healing. Nick's presence becomes a lifeline because he simply makes room for her suffering and, more significantly, provides his unwavering support without lecturing or shaming her for almost giving in. Without putting any pressure or expectations on them, he gently proposes that they take their time, communicate, heal, and rediscover what brought them joy together. He gives Brooke the emotional haven she needs to step back from the brink and take a few real, calming breaths in the process. Giving Brooke permission to put her sobriety and mental health first, beginning with these initial epiphanies that Nick has assisted her in achieving, is more important than continuing where they left off. Nick, meantime, is already by Brooke's side as both coach and conscience after Ridge's engagement to Taylor becomes public, and Brooke is caught off guard by the news, initially going into denial. Nick remains loyal to his role as Brooke's rock, assuring her that she doesn't have to deal with the fallout alone while the rest of Los Angeles is in shock. Taylor is ecstatic, Ridge is torn, and Brooke is sad. He validates every emotion she's scared to express, encouraging her to express not only her grief but also her anger and terror. Nick shows empathy with every heartbreaking confession, not because he knows everything but because he cares enough to see her struggle. He assures her that she has every right, even a duty, to go with her dignity untarnished and that Ridge's decision is a reflection of her indecision rather than her worth. In a surprising but intensely touching turn of events, Nick basically becomes Brooke's sober-up friend in addition to serving as her emotional support system. During her frantic thoughts, he gently reroutes her thoughts by saying, "Let's just sit here. Let's drink water and breathe." He assists her in changing out of the dress she had planned for an impromptu meeting with Ridge and Taylor's ring, and in a modest but meaningful gesture he helps her change into comfortable clothing. Even though Brooke's love foundation is crumbling, Nick gently restores a feeling of normalcy by recalling the little things that used to matter, like her favorite slipper socks and the way she likes to brush out her hair before bed. Brooke responds to this genuine, responsible care by allowing herself to rely on Nick's constant presence, moment by moment. Nick offers a change of scenery and the first sign of fresh starts by suggesting that the two of them take a sunrise stroll just as it looks like the night is about to retreat. Nick muses on how decisions, not errors, define us as they walk silently through the deserted streets of Los Angeles, early enough for Brooke to still pass Ridge and Taylor's house before the day starts. He tells her that although Ridge's decision to choose Taylor doesn't take away from his love for her, it also doesn't lessen Nick's regard and affection for her. As they stop at a park seat with a view of the city skyline, Brooke is momentarily struck by the realization that for the first time in weeks she is not thinking about alcohol, Ridge, or treachery. She is simply breathing, living, and, amazingly, feeling secure. Nick merely proposes that they continue to walk together, quietly, one breath at a time without hurrying an explanation or a big event. Brooke nods, her eyes still raw with vulnerability, tears dripping on her cheeks. Nick's hand on her back helps her stand up and she steps forward. Something more profound than romance can be found in that unsaid vow between them, the potential for both addiction and heartbreak recovery. It's a modest start rather than a dramatic act of atonement. Shaken but encouraged, Brooke comes to the realization that perhaps, just possibly, heroism doesn't always come in the shape of a white coat. Sometimes, it takes the form of a lifelong friend who is prepared to stick by your side, placing a hand on the small of your back and reassuring you that everything will be well. In addition to saving Brooke from the bottle, Nick grants her the freedom to fight, recover, and rewrite her story according to her own terms throughout this intense encounter. This moment, which is so incredibly human, honest, and filled with compassion, feels like a turning point for Brooke Logan, even though viewers are aware that soap operas thrive on conflict. Yes, there is still heartbreak, but there is now opposition. It is promised that sobriety may be maintained, love can be healing, and Nick may still be a part of her journey, but only if it fulfills her true needs rather than her desperate ones. And that's a tremendous message, because Nick might be helping Brooke get back up, gasping and crying but alive, by supporting her before she falls. And that could be their most significant reunion to date.